happy summer. I hope you're all enjoying your school holidays and spending lots of time outside playing with your friends and family. And this is also the perfect time for you to enjoy our special omnibus edition of Journey with Story, where you can listen to all of this month's episodes in one place. Oh, mums and dads, don't forget you can download some free colouring sheets to accompany each episode if you go to www.journeywithstory.com and click on the Become a Patreon orange tab. It's up at the top of each page. And also, if you scroll right down, it's right there at the bottom of every page too. Thanks to all of you, our loyal Patreon subscribers. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's take an omnibus journey with Story. Now, let's take a journey with The Curious Elephant's Child by Rudyard Kipling, adapted by Kathleen. Long ago and far away, the elephant had no trunk. The elephant had only a small nose about the size of a shoe. The elephant could move his short nose from side to side, but he could not pick anything up with it. One elephant, a bitty baby elephant, was full of insatiable curiosity. Every day he asked question after question. He asked so many questions that he filled the whole of Africa, which was where he lived, with his questions. He asked his tall aunt, the ostrich, "Why do tail feathers grow so long?" He asked his tall uncle, the giraffe, "What makes your skin so spotty?" He was full of questions because of his insatiable curiosity. He asked his aunt, the hippopotamus, "Why are your eyes so red?" He asked his hairy uncle, the baboon, "Why do melons taste so good?" But even after asking all these questions, he was still full of more questions. He had an insatiable curiosity. He asked questions about everything. He asked questions about what he saw, what he heard, what he smelled, what he felt, and what he touched. Soon all his aunts and uncles grew tired of all his questions. They told him that he was full of insatiable curiosity. One morning the elephant's child thought of a new question, one he had never asked before. He said, "What does the crocodile have for dinner?" Everyone said, "Hush, be quiet, no more questions." As the elephant's child was walking away, he spotted the kolokolo bird. He told the kolokolo bird, "Everyone is mad at me. They keep telling me to be quiet. They say I have too many questions, but I still want to know, what does the crocodile eat for dinner?" The kolokolo bird told the elephant's child, "Go to the Limpopo River and sit on the bank. You will find out." The next day, the elephant's child packed a basket full of food, 100 pounds of bananas, 100 pounds of sugarcane, and 17 melons. He said farewell to all of his family. "I am going to the great grey green greasy Limpopo River," he told them. "I will see for myself what the crocodile eats for dinner." They all wished him luck and told him they hoped he found the answer to his question. The elephant's child travelled east by north, eating bananas, sugar cane, and melons to sustain him. He dropped the rinds and the peelings as he went, because of course he could not pick them up with his short nose. At last he came to the banks of the great grey green greasy Limpopo River. He sat on the bank by the fever trees. Now it is important for you to understand that the elephant's child had never seen a crocodile before. He didn't know what a crocodile looked like. But he was still full of curiosity because he had an insatiable curiosity. The first thing he saw was a bi-coloured python rock snake. It was curled around a rock. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child, who always minded his manners, "have you seen a crocodile in these parts?" "Have I seen a crocodile?" said the bi-coloured python rock snake in a very irritated voice. "What question will you ask me next?" "Excuse me," asked the elephant's child, "but what does the crocodile eat for dinner?" The bi-coloured python rock snake told the elephant's child, "Go right up to the edge of the great green greasy Limpopo River and sit by the trees. Watch for the crocodile and you will see for yourself what he eats." So the elephant's child thanked the bi-coloured python rock snake and walked down to the river. He sat on the bank and watched. The elephant's child saw a long green scary thing lying at the edge of the water. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child very politely as always, "have you seen a crocodile in these parts?" The crocodile winked one eye and lifted his tail out of the mud. "Come hither, little one," said the crocodile. "Why do you ask me such a question?" "Excuse me, but I want to know what a crocodile eats for dinner," replied the elephant's child. "Come hither, little one. I am the crocodile." The elephant's child grew very excited. He kneeled down on the bank. "You are the crocodile I've been looking for all these days. Will you please tell me what you eat for dinner?" "Come hither, little one. I will whisper the answer to you," said the crocodile. The elephant's child put his head next to the crocodile's large mouth. He wanted to hear the answer to his question. "What do I have for dinner today? I think I will have an elephant's child." And with that he grabbed hold of the elephant's child's short nose. This annoyed the elephant's child. He said, speaking through his nose, "Let go, you're hurting me." The bi-coloured python rock snake scuffled down the bank and cried, "My young friend, pull as hard as you can. It is my opinion that the crocodile will jerk you into the water if you don't." The elephant's child sat back on his legs and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. His small nose began to stretch. The crocodile flapped his tail and splashed the water. He pulled and pulled and pulled the elephant child's nose. The elephant's child spread all his 4 legs out to get a firm footing on the ground. He pulled and pulled and pulled. His nose kept on stretching. It was getting longer and longer. The crocodile pulled and pulled and pulled too. The elephant's child's nose grew longer and longer. Now his nose was nearly 5 feet long. The bi-coloured python rock snake came down and knotted himself around the elephant's child. He and the elephant's child pulled and pulled and pulled. At last, the crocodile let go of the elephant's child's nose. It made a loud plop. The noise could be heard all up and down the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River. The elephant's child was happy to be free from the crocodile's mouth, but his nose was so long and so out of shape, he wrapped it in cool banana leaves and put it in the water of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River to cool. "What are you doing?" asked the bi-coloured python rock snake. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child, "but I am waiting for my nose to shrink." "You are going to be waiting a very long time. Maybe you should think about how many good things this long trunk can do." About that time, a fly sat on the elephant's child's head. The elephant's child lifted up his long trunk and scared the fly away. He could never have done that with his short nose. The elephant's child was getting hungry. He pulled up a bundle of grass with his trunk and stuffed it into his mouth. He could never have done that with his short nose. The sun was getting very hot. The elephant's child put his long trunk in the mud of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River and he sprayed the cool mud on his head. The cool water and mud went all over his back. He could never have done that with his short nose. The elephant's child decided to go home to show all his family his long trunk and all the wonderful things that he could do. As he walked home, he ate all the fruit he wanted in the tall trees. He scratched his back with a branch. He put cool water on his back. When the sun was hot, he even picked up the melon rinds that he had dropped on the way to the river. These were all the things he could never have done with his short nose. He especially liked the way the long trunk made him sound when he sang. The trunk made his singing louder and more beautiful. It sounded like several brass trumpets. When the elephant's child got home that evening, everyone was glad to see him. He told them about his visit to the great grey green greasy Limpopo River. "I asked the crocodile what he ate for dinner, and he gave me this long trunk to keep," said the elephant's child. Some animals said that his trunk was ugly, but the elephant's child said, "It may be ugly, but it's very useful." He showed them how he could get fruit from the tallest tree, how he could pull up clumps of grass and put them in his mouth, how he could spray water on his back when he was hot. He showed them how he could make a loud sound with his trunk that was like brass trumpets. His family was so excited. They thought his long trunk was very useful. One by one, all the other elephants went to the banks of the great grey green greasy Limpopo River to get long noses from the crocodile. Ever since that day, all the elephants you'll ever see will have long and useful trunks, exactly like the trunk of the insatiable, curious elephant's child. Let's take a journey with the woman who lost her dumpling. Now, there might be some words in this story that you don't know, as the story does take place in Japan. But if you listen closely, I'll explain the new words when we come to them. Long, long ago, there was a funny old woman who liked to laugh and to make dumplings from rice flour. One day, while she was preparing some dumplings for dinner, she let one fall, and it rolled into a hole in the earthen floor of her little kitchen and disappeared. The old woman tried to reach it by putting her hand down the hole, and all at once the earth gave way and the old woman fell in. She fell quite a distance, but was not a bit hurt, and when she got up on her feet again, she saw that she was standing on a road, just like the road before her house. It was quite light down there, and she could see plenty of rice fields, but no one in them. How all this happened, I cannot tell you, but it seems that the old woman had fallen into another country. The road she had fallen upon sloped very much, so after having looked for her dumpling in vain, she thought that it must have rolled further away down the slope. She ran down the road to look, crying, "My dumpling, my dumpling, where is that dumpling of mine?" After a little while, she saw a stone jigsaw standing by the roadside. A jigsaw is a statue, usually of a Buddhist monk, with a round, cute and smiling face. Jigsaws are protectors of children including unborn children, and also look after women and travellers. People are very fond of them and sometimes give the stone statues woolly hats and scarves to keep them warm. The woman looked at the statue and said, "Oh, Lord Jigsaw, did you see my dumpling?" The Jigsaw answered, "Yes, I saw your dumpling rolling by me down the road, but you had better not go any further because there's a wicked Oni living down there who eats people." An Oni, by the way, is an ogre, usually hideously ugly and very dangerous. But the old woman only laughed and ran on further down the road, crying, my dumpling, where is that dumpling of mine?" And she came to another statue of Jigsaw and asked it, "Oh, kind Lord Jigsaw, did you see my dumpling?" And the Jigsaw said, "Yes, I saw your dumpling go by a little while ago, but you must not run any further because there's a wicked Oni down there who eats people." But she only laughed and ran on, still crying out, my dumpling, where is that dumpling of mine?" And she came to a third Jigsaw and asked it, "Oh, dear Lord Jigsaw, did you see my dumpling?" But the Jigsaw said, "Don't talk about your dumpling now. Here is the Oni coming. Sit down here behind my sleeve and don't make any noise." Presently the Oni came very close and stopped and bowed to Jigsaw and said, "Good day, Jigsaw-san." Jigsaw said good day too, very politely. Then the Oni suddenly sniffed the air 2 or 3 times in a suspicious way and cried out, Jigsaw-san, I smell a woman somewhere, don't you?" "Oh," said Jigsaw, "perhaps you are mistaken." No, said the Oni after sniffing the air again. "I smell a smell of a woman." Then the old woman could not help laughing. And the Oni immediately reached down his big hairy hand behind Jigsaw's sleeve and pulled her out, still laughing. "Aha!" cried the Oni. Then Jigsaw said, "What are you going to do with that good old woman? You must not hurt her." "I won't," said the Oni, "but I will take her home with me to cook for us." "Ha ha ha," laughed the old woman. "Very well," said Jigsaw, "but you must really be kind to her. If you're not, I shall be very angry." "I won't hurt her at all," promised the Oni, "and she will only have to do a little work for us every day. Goodbye, Jigsaw-san." Then the Oni took the old woman far down the road till they came to a wide, deep river where there was a boat. He put her into the boat and took her across the river to his house. It was a very large house. He led her at once onto the kitchen and told her to cook some dinner for himself and the other Oni who lived with him. And he gave her a small wooden rice paddle and said, "You must only put 1 grain of rice into the pot, and when you stir that 1 grain of rice in the water with this paddle, the grain will multiply until the pot is full." So the old woman put just 1 rice grain into the pot, as the Oni told her, and began to stir it with the paddle. And as she stirred, the 1 grain became 2, and then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, and so on. Every time she moved the paddle, the rice increased in quantity, and in a few minutes the great pot was full. After that, the funny old woman stayed a long time in the house of the Oni, and every day cooked food for him and for all his friends. The Oni never hurt or frightened her, and her work was made quite easy by the magic paddle, although she did have to cook a very, very great quantity of rice, because an Oni eats much more than any human being eats. But she felt lonely, and always wished very much to go back to her own little house and make her own dumplings. And one day, when the Oni were all out somewhere, she thought she would try to run away. First, she took the magic paddle and slipped it under her belt, and then she went down to the river. No one saw her, She got into the boat and pushed off, and as she could row very well, she was soon far away from the shore. But the river was very wide, and she had not rowed more than a quarter of the way across when the Oni, all of them, came back to the house. They found their cook was gone, and the magic paddle too. They ran down to the river at once and saw the old woman rowing away very fast. Perhaps they could not swim. At all events, they had no boat, and they thought the only way they could catch the funny old woman would be to drink up all of the water in the river before she got to the other bank. So they knelt down and they began to drink so fast that before the old woman had got halfway over, the water had become quite low. But the old woman kept on rowing until the water had got so shallow that the Oni stopped drinking and began to wade across. Then she dropped her oar, took the magic paddle from her belt and shook it at the Oni and made such funny faces that the Oni all burst out laughing. But the moment they laughed, they could not help throwing up all the water they had drunk, and so the river became full again. The Oni could not cross, and the funny old woman got safely over to the other side and ran away up the road as fast as she could. She never stopped running until she found herself at home again. After that, she was very happy, for she could make dumplings whenever she pleased. Besides, she had the magic paddle to make rice for her. She sold her dumplings to her neighbours and travellers, and in quite a short time, she became a funny, old, wealthy woman. Now let's take a journey with Punya and the King of the Sharks. On one side of the island there lived a great shark. He was named the King of the Sharks of that place, and he had 10 sharks under him. He lived near a cave that was filled with lobsters. But no one dared to dive down and go into that cave and take lobsters out of it, on account of this King of the Sharks and the 10 sharks he had under him. They stayed around the cave night and day, and if a diver ventured near, they would bite him and devour him. There was a boy named Punya, whose father had been killed by the sharks. Now, after his father had been killed, there was no one to catch fish for Punya and his mother. They had sweet potatoes to eat, but they never had any fish to eat with them. Often Punya heard his mother say that she wished she had a fish or a lobster to eat with his sweet potatoes. He made up his mind that they should have lobsters. He came above the cave where the lobsters were. Looking down, he saw the sharks, the King of the Sharks and his 10 sharks. They were all asleep. While he was watching them, they woke up. Punya pretended that he did not know that the sharks had awoken, and he spoke loudly so that they would hear him, and he said, "Here I am, Punya, and I am going into the cave to get lobsters for myself and my mother. That great King of the Sharks is asleep now, and I can dive to the point over there and then go into the cave. I will take 2 lobsters in my hands, and my mother and I will have something to eat with our sweet potatoes." So Punya said, speaking loudly and pretending that he thought the sharks were still asleep. Said the king of the sharks, speaking softly to the other sharks, "Let us rush to the place where Punya dives, and let us devour him as we devoured his father." But Punya was a very cunning boy, and not at all the sort that could be caught by the stupid sharks. He had a stone upon his hand while he was speaking, and he flung it towards the point that he said he was going to dive to. Just as soon as the stone struck the water, the sharks made a rush to the place, leaving the cave of the lobsters unguarded. Then Punya dived. He went into the cave, took 2 lobsters in his hands, and came up on the place that he had spoken from before. And he shouted down to the sharks, "Here is Punya, and he has come back safely. He has 2 lobsters, and he and his mother have something to live on." It was the first shark, the second shark, the third shark, the fourth shark, the 5th shark, the 6th shark, the 7th shark, the 8th shark, the 9th shark, the 10th shark. It was the 10th shark, the one with the thin tail that showed Punya what to do. When the king of the sharks heard this from Punya, he ordered all the sharks to come together and stay in a row. He counted them, and there were 10 of them, and the 10th one had a thin tail. "So, it was you, Thin Tail," he said. "You told the boy Punya what to do. You shall die." Then, according to the orders of the king shark, the thin-tailed shark was killed. Punya called out to them, "You have killed one of your own kind." With the 2 lobsters in his hands, he went back to his mother's. Punya and his mother now had something to eat with their sweet potatoes, and when the lobsters were all eaten, Punya went back to the place above the cave. He called out, the same as he had done the first time, "I can dive to the place over there and then slip into the cave, for the sharks are all asleep. I can get 2 lobsters for myself and my mother, so that we'll have something to eat with our sweet potatoes." Then he threw down a stone and made ready to dive to another point. When the stone struck the water, the sharks rushed over, leaving the cave unguarded. Then Punya dived down and went into the cave. He took 2 lobsters in his hands and got back to the top of the water, and when he got to the place that he had spoken from before, he shouted down to the sharks. It was the first shark, the second shark, the third shark, the 4th shark, the 5th shark, the 6th shark, the 7th shark, the 8th shark, the 9th shark. It was the 9th shark, the one with the big stomach that told Punya what to do. Then the king of the sharks ordered the sharks to get into a line. He counted them, and he found that the 9th shark had a big stomach. "So, it was you that told Punya what to do," he said, and he ordered the big-stomached shark to be killed. After that, Punya went home with his 2 lobsters, and he and his mother had something to eat with their sweet potatoes. Punya continued to do this. He would deceive the sharks by throwing a stone to the place that he said he was going to dive to. When he got the sharks away from the cave, he would dive down, slip in, and take 2 lobsters in his hands. And always, when he got to the top of the water, he would name a shark. The first shark, the second shark, the third shark, the shark with a little eye, the shark with a grey spot on him told Punya what to do, he would say. And each time, he would get one of the sharks killed, and he kept on doing this until only one of the sharks was left. the king of the sharks. After that, Punya went into the forest. He hewed out 2 hard pieces of wood, each about a yard long. Then he took sticks for lighting a fire. He got charcoal to burn as a fire, and he got food. He put everything into a bag, and he carried the bag down to the beach. He came above the cave that the king of the sharks was watching, and he said, speaking in a loud voice, "If I dive now, and if King Shark bites me, my blood will come to the top of the water, and my mother will see the blood and will bring me back to life again. But if I dive down and the king of the sharks takes me into his mouth hole, I shall die and never come back to life again." King Shark was listening, of course, and he said to himself, "No, I will not bite you, you cunning boy. I will take you into my mouth and swallow you whole, and then you will never come back to life again. I shall open my mouth wide enough to take you in. Yes, indeed. This time I will get you." Punya dived, holding his bag. King Shark opened his mouth wide and got Punya into it. But as soon as the boy got within, he opened his bag and took out the 2 pieces of wood which he had hewn out in the forest. He put them between the jaws of the shark, so that the king of the shark was not able to close his jaws. With his mouth held open, he went dashing through the water. Punya was now inside the big shark, and he took the fire sticks out of his bag, and he rubbed them together, making a fire. He kindled the charcoal that he had brought, and he cooked his food at the fire that he had made. With the fire in his insides, the shark could not keep still. He went dashing here and there through the ocean, and at last the shark came near the island of Hawaii again. "If he brings me near the breakers, I am saved," said Punya, speaking aloud. "But if he takes me to the sand near where the grass grows, I shall die. I cannot be saved." When King of the Sharks heard Punya say this, he said to himself, I will not take him near the breakers. I will take him where the dry sand is, near the grass." Saying this, he dashed in from the ocean and up to where the shrubs grew on the shore. No shark had ever gone there before. And when King of the Sharks got there, he could not get back again. Then Punya came out of the shark. He shouted out, "King of the Sharks has come to visit us." And the people, hearing about their enemy, came and they killed the shark. And that was the end of the ugly and wicked King of the Sharks. Every day after that, Punya was able to go down into the cave and get lobsters for himself and his mother, and all the people rejoiced when they heard how those 11 sharks had been destroyed because of the bravery of the boy Punya. Now, let's take a journey with the Kingbird and the bear. The bear and the wolf were walking through the forest one day when they heard a bird twittering in the shrubbery. Coming closer, they saw a tiny bird with an upright tail hopping from branch to branch and chirping.
"Brother Wolf, what bird is that sings so beautifully?"
asked the bear.
Quiet, Bear, this is the Kingbird,
whispered the wolf.
A Kingbird?
The startled bear whispered back.
Then in that case, shouldn't we bow to him? Of course,
said the wolf, and they both bowed to the bird, right down to the ground. But the bird didn't even look at them. He went on hopping from branch to branch, chirping away and continuously flirting his upright tail.
You see, he's so small yet so proud that he won't even glance at us, grumbled the bear. It would be interesting to see what it's like in his palace. I don't know what it's like, said the wolf. Though I know where the palace is, I've never had the nerve to look in. Frightening, eh? Frightening or not, there just never seemed to be a right moment. Then let's go now. I'll take a look, said the bear.
They came to the hollow tree where the bird had his nest, and just as the bear bent forward to look into it, the wolf grabbed him by his coat tail and tugged. "Wait, bear, stop," he whispered.
Why, what's the matter?
See, the kingbird has flown up, and there's his queen.
It's too awkward for us to look while they're here.
The bear followed the wolf into the bushes while the kingbird and his wife flew into the hollow to feed their young. After they flew away, the bear came up and looked in. The hollow was like any hollow in a decaying tree. A few feathers were spread about, and on them sat 5 baby kingbirds.
You mean to say that this is the Kingbird's palace? Shouted the bear. Why, this is nothing but a hole. And these are supposed to be the Kingbird's children? What ugly little strays.
And, spitting vigorously, the bear turned to go away, when here the baby kingbirds in the nest began to squeal.
"Ho, Mr. Bear, so you spit on us? You'll have to answer painfully for this insult."
The bear felt a cold shiver run through him at their squealing. He ran from the ugly hollow as fast as he could, took shelter in his burrow, sat down and stayed there. The baby kingbirds in their nest, once started, kept on squealing, non-stop, till their mother and father returned. "What's going on here? What's happened?" asked their parents, and offered their children a fly, a worm, whatever each had picked up.
"We don't want any flies. We don't want any worms."
"Then what has happened to you?" asked the parents.
"The bear was here and called us ugly strays, and he even spit into our nest,"
explained the little kingbirds.
"You don't say,"
shouted Father Kingbird, and without thinking long he rose and flew to the bear's burrow.
"How dare you?"
he said, sitting on a branch over the bear's head.
"What were you thinking of?
What was the reason for calling my children strays, and added to that, spitting into my nest? You'll answer to me for this. Tomorrow morning you'll meet me in battle."
What could Bear do? If it was war, then it was war. He went out to call all the animals for support. The wolf, the wild boar, the fox, the badger, the deer, the rabbit, all who ran about the forest on 4 legs. The kingbird also called on all his feathered friends, not to speak of the small life of the forest, flies, bees, hornets, mosquitoes, and told them to prepare for a great war on the morrow.
"Listen," said the kingbird, "we must send someone out to scout the enemy camp, so that we'll know who their general will be and what they will choose for their war cry."
The council decided to send the mosquito, because he was the smallest and the most cunning. The mosquito flew to the bear's camp and arrived just as deliberations were in progress.
"How shall we start?" asked the bear. "You, fox, are the most clever among us, so you will be our general."
"Very well," said the fox. "You see, if it were animals that we had to deal with, it would be better to have the bear himself for general. But we have to deal with all the winged creatures.
So in this case I may be more helpful. The most important thing here is a quick eye and a cunning brain. Now listen, here is my plan. The enemy will be flying through the air, but we won't bother with them. We'll go straight to the Kingbird's nest and kidnap his children. Once we have them in our hands, we'll force the old Kingbird to end the war and surrender, and then victory will be ours. Ah, good, very good, shouted all the animals. This means, continued the fox, that we must advance in a solid line, remain together, because there are eagles and hawks and other birds in the enemy ranks. If we advance in a scattered fashion, they will peck out our eyes. Together we will be safer. True, true, cried the rabbit, to whom the very mention of the eagle made his knees shake. I will go ahead and the rest of you follow, said the fox. You see my tail? It will be our battle standard. Everyone, watch my tail closely. When I'm holding it straight up in the air, it means you can advance boldly. If I see an ambush ahead, I'll immediately lower it to half-mast. That will be a signal for us to advance more slowly and carefully. And if there is real danger ahead, I'll bring my tail right down between my legs. Then you must run with all your might. Great, great, shouted all the animals, and praised the fox highly for his cleverness. The mosquito, having heard the whole clever plan, flew back to the Kingbird and told him all about it in great detail. The next day at dawn, the animals gathered together to begin their march. The earth trembled, the brush crackled, the roars, the squeals that resounded through the forest were frightening. On the other side, the birds were getting together. The air was full of the noise of flapping wings, leaves fluttering down from the trees, shrieks, clamour, cawing. The animals came forward in a solid line straight toward the Kingbird's nest. Like a thick cloud, the birds flew above, but couldn't stop them. But the old Kingbird wasn't too worried. Seeing the fox marching proudly at the head of his army, his tail like a candle in the air, he called to the hornet and said, Listen, friend, you'll see that fox over there. He's the enemy general. Fly as fast as you can, sit on his stomach, and bite with all your might. The hornet flew straight to the fox's stomach. The fox felt that something was crawling over his stomach, and he could have chased away whatever it was with a wave of his tail, but no, his tail at this moment was the battle standard, so he couldn't. But here the hornet sank his stinger into a very tender spot. Oh, whoa! howled the fox and lowered his tail halfway. What is it? What's happening? The animals called to one another. I think, some sort of, ambush, muttered the fox, clenching his teeth with pain. An ambush, an ambush! The message was passed down the line. Carefully, there's an ambush. But here the hornet again stung the fox with all his might. The fox howled with pain, leapt into the air, put his tail between his legs, and ran. Now the animals asked no questions about what was happening, but fled in terror in whatever direction was handy, falling all over each other in their haste. And the birds, the bees, the mosquitoes, and the hornets took after them, beating them from above, pecking, biting, tearing. It was a terrible battle. The animals scattered and hid in hollows and holes, while the Kingbird, with his birds and insects, were victorious. The Kingbird flew joyfully back to his nest to tell his children. Well, children, now you can eat. We've won the battle with the animals. No, said the baby Kingbird. We won't eat till the bear comes here and begs our pardon. What to do? The Kingbird flew to the bear's burrow,
sat on a branch over his head and said, "Well, Bear, so you would fight with the Kingbird, eh?" But the bear, who had marched in the rear of his army and had been severely battered by the hoofs and horns of the wild boar and the deer when they fled in retreat, was now lying down and groaning.
"Go away and give me peace," he growled. "I'll tell everyone not to provoke you in the future."
"No, my friend, that is not enough," said the Kingbird. "You must go to my hollow tree and beg pardon of my children, because otherwise you'll be in even greater trouble." And so the bear had to go and apologize to the baby Kingbirds. Only then were the Kingbird children satisfied, and they began to eat and drink once more.
Now, let's take a journey with Why Bananas Belong to Monkeys. Once upon a time, when the world had just been made and there was only one kind of banana, but very many kinds of monkeys, there was a little old woman who had a big garden full of banana trees. It was very difficult for the old woman to gather the bananas herself, so she made a bargain with the largest monkey. She told him that if he would gather the bunches of bananas for her, she would give him half of them. And so the monkey at once set about gathering the bananas. Then he gave the little old woman the bananas from the bottom of the bunch. These were very small and wrinkled. The nice big fat ones at the top of the bunch he kept for himself and carried them home to let them ripen in the dark. Now the little old woman was very angry. She lay awake all night trying to think of some way by which she could get even with the monkey. And at last she thought of a trick. The next morning she made an image of wax which looked just like a little boy, and then she placed a large flat basket on the top of the image's head, and in the basket she placed the best ripe bananas she could find. They certainly looked very tempting. After a little while, the biggest monkey passed that way. He saw the image of wax and thought that it was a boy peddling bananas. He had often pushed over boy banana peddlers, upset their baskets, and then had run away with the bananas. This morning he was feeling very good-natured, so he thought that he would first try asking politely for the bananas. "Oh, peddler boy," he said to him, "please give me a banana." The image of wax answered never a word. Again the monkey said, this time in a little louder voice, "Oh, peddler boy, please give me a banana, just one little, ripe little, sweet little banana." The image of wax answered never a word. Then the monkey called out in his loudest voice, "Oh, peddler boy, if you don't give me a banana, I'll give you such a push that it will upset all of your bananas." The image of wax was silent. The monkey ran toward the image of wax and struck it hard with his hand. His hand remained firmly embedded in the wax. "Oh, peddler boy, let go my hand," the monkey called out. "Let go my hand and give me a banana, or else I'll give you a hard, hard blow with my other hand." The image of wax did not let go. The monkey gave the image a hard, hard blow with his other hand. The other hand remained firmly embedded in the wax. Then the monkey called out, "Oh, peddler boy, let go my 2 hands, let go my 2 hands, and give me a banana, or else I will give you a kick with my foot." The image of wax did not let go. The monkey gave the image a kick with his foot, and his foot remained stuck fast in the wax. "Oh, peddler boy, the monkey cried, "let go my foot, let go my 2 hands and my foot, and give me a banana, or else I'll give you a kick with my other foot." The image of wax did not let go. Then the monkey, who was now very angry, gave the image of wax a kick with his foot, and his foot remained stuck fast in the wax. The monkey shouted, "Oh, peddler boy, let go my foot, let go my 2 feet and my 2 hands, and give me a banana, or else I'll give you a push with my body." The image of wax did not let go. The monkey gave the image of wax a push with his body. His body remained caught fast in the wax. "Oh, peddler boy, the monkey shouted, let go my body, and my 2 feet, and my 2 hands, or I'll call all the other monkeys to help me." The image of wax did not let go. Then the monkey made such an uproar with his cries and shouts that very soon monkeys came running from all directions. There were big monkeys and little monkeys and middle-sized monkeys. A whole army of monkeys had come to the aid of the biggest monkey. It was the very littlest monkey who thought of a plan to help the biggest monkey out of his plight. The monkeys were to climb up into the biggest tree and pile themselves one on top of another until they made a pyramid of monkeys. The monkey with the very loudest voice of all was to be on top, and he was to shout his very loudest to the sun and ask the sun to come and help the biggest monkey out of his dreadful difficulty. This is what all the big-sized, little-sized, middle-sized monkeys did. The monkey with the loudest voice on top of the pyramid made the sun hear. And the sun came at once. The sun poured his hottest rays down upon the wax, and after a while the wax began to melt. The monkey was at last able to pull out one of his hands. The sun poured down more of his hottest rays, and soon the monkey was able to pull out his 2 hands. Then he could pull out 1 foot, then another, and in a little while his body too. At last he was free. When the little old woman saw what had happened, she was very much discouraged about raising bananas. She decided to move to another part of the world where she raised cabbages instead of bananas. The monkeys were left in possession of the big garden full of banana trees. From that day to this, the monkeys have thought that they own all the bananas. I hope you enjoyed this special playlist. Be sure to send us your drawings at www.journeywithstory.com. Click on the contact and fill in the form there and attach your drawing. Cheerio then. Join me next time for Journey with Story. Music and post-production was by Colette Jonas.